Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and this is going to be my review on The Punisher issue 12, but really, it's going to be talking about the end of The Punisher. That's kind of why I'm doing this video. But before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe on this guy's channel. Hit the bell if you're so inclined. It does help. I'm on here for the interaction. That's why I'm doing these videos. Okay, so a little, forward. I have not done a review on any of the Punisher this series from Jason Aaron, the 2023. This run has been phenomenal. I got another one sitting right here just to show you. But the only reason I started reading this series because I was already reading Daredevil, and about issue 5 or 6 of Daredevil, this majorly crosses over to the Punisher series. Back and forth, they have this major war that's going on between the fist and the hand. I think Punisher is in charge of the hand, and then like Daredevil and both both Daredevils are in charge of the fist or whatever it is. Yeah, the fist. I get confused with all of them. But anyway, so we got these two battles going on. And basically, the Punisher has been deemed the Beast from the hand, and has been granted him like powers. That's why, he's got the different outfit, because he is the Beast now. He has, you can kind of see it, but he's got some red glowing eyes. But he does have powers. He can fly. He's got like energy blasts that can come from his hands. He's got quite a bunch of different powers, actually, but I'll show you as we go along. But also with him getting the powers of the Beast, he got other like gifts that came along with it, and we saw that his long lost like dead wife Maria was resurrected, and she had most of her memories intact, but there were some that weren't. That's mainly her backstory in the series, is she's been slowly gaining those memories back. So I'm mainly going to focus on the Punisher's side of the story, and if you've been reading the series, throughout the series it's been mainstream with this and the hand, what the Punisher has been doing, for the hand, that kind of thing, because basically he's titled as the Beast. He's their like strongest warrior or something like that, and there's been some conflicting stuff back and forth with the Fist of the Beast, right? Because he's still been doing his mission. So in the last issue, in this issue right here, they had this major battle between Daredevil and Punisher. Daredevil completed what he needed to do, but kind of was tricked by the hand in the end of it. At the very end of it, most of the main Avengers confronted, Daredevil and Elektra on their end. They end up capturing Elektra, and having Daredevil like having to run, and basically barely escaping from the Avengers. Punisher, on the other hand, was captured at the very end of the last issue, and he used, they were pulling what gave him the power of the Beast out of him. Basically, Doctor Strange had did some spell and was literally pulling like this dark energy looking stuff out of him. That's why he's really messed up at the beginning of this comic, is because of that horror deal. Not only fighting Daredevil and getting, kind of back and forth damage with Daredevil from that, but the Avengers showed up and they started pulling that stuff out of Frank. So at the very end, he did still have some of that power left of the Beast, and he was able to make it back to the hands, like, castle or base or whatever, and that's basically where this book starts off. And it's this whole like you're not really the Beast, you're not strong enough to do this, and that's coming from this, she's kind of the real leader of the I keep getting confused as the hand or the fist. They're both the same thing, right? A hand and a fist. But she's the leader of the hand. And basically she's kind of, condoning Frank and being mean to him, because when it came down to things, he really couldn't do what was needed to do, what the Beast is supposed to do. And it's basically kill. But in this time frame, while she's doing this whole villain speech, she's about to put Frank out of his misery and kill him. I mean, she's got Frank's gun, and it's got some god bullets in it, and like I said, he's got the powers, but he's still got a little juice left. And right as this goes down, I mean, he's able to blast her with this, basically like the magic, the bullet like backfire, because that's what she's like, oh, you finished your war, and he's like, nope, you're the last one on my list, kind of thing. He gets the gun to backfire, and it's got this magic bullet and whatever, and she basically catches on fire and kind of leaves. At the same moment, that's when the Avengers show up. And it's not really the Avengers, but it's Wolverine, Black Widow, Strange, Cap, I think Moon Knight's there. But basically, they recapture Punisher. This is where a lot of the backstory kind of goes back and forth, and this whole backstory that's been going on was it really like, was Frank really doing the justified thing by getting revenge for his family after they were murdered? Because at this point, and most everybody knows that story, if you know the Punisher, on how he became the Punisher, the mob gunned down his family and led to this whole like mob killing spree. But now we know that's not really what happened. It was the hand all along, and they hired the mob to kill his family on purpose so they could make him this beast in the long run, but he needed to do the Punisher stick. But the backstory, and it's a different art when they do the backstory, but basically it's this it's kind of this old school looking art, but we've gotten this backstory where it's like, was it really Frank justifying, why was he really doing the Punisher thing? And deep down, it had nothing to do with the, war. It had nothing to do, it was something that was just inside him all along, something that he just felt comfortable for, something that he was made for, kind of thing. But I mean, in his mind, it was a war, and it did have a starting point, and all wars have an ending point, kind of thing. So we get to this book, and it's basically, those other Marvel characters, interviewing Punisher, and at this point, they're unsure on what to do. And it's kind of like the three options you can think. They could put him in jail, but it wouldn't have any ramifications. They could kill him, but they'd also feel guilty for killing, kind of like an anti-hero kind of thing. And they go through one by one. Doctor Strange is first, and Doctor Strange, at the end of it, he ends up giving him, it's like the bullets that end up killing, like, I think Maria and his kids or whatever, and it's like pieces of it or something like that. Doctor Strange ends up giving it back to Punisher to reflect, or help him reflect, whatever. Wolverine's the next one that comes in there and kind of gives him this guilt trip for being a killing machine, but it's kind of like, I mean, Frank just throws it right back in Logan's face, because it's same thing, vice versa. And I mean, Wolverine's got a huge track record. Then we get into Black Widow, and Black Widow's kind of the same thing, right? An assassin, blah, 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 and it's kind of this back and forth. And the whole time we're hearing this, Frank always has this, like, real life, come back to the, like Wolverine and Black Widow coming in trying to give him this guilt trip, and he's like, look, y'all have killed so many people, blah, blah, blah. Then Moon Knight comes in, and Moon Knight's kind of like, he's on the same track, and he doesn't see, Frank on the road to vengeance as so far as being a bad thing. It's kind of where he's getting lost and muddled within it. It's not really a straight line anymore with Frank. It's kind of got derailed and done all these different things. With Moon Knight, it's more of this, that I was able to find this path of redemption. That path out there exists. It could be for you, kind of thing. And Punisher just kind of like, I mean, he doesn't say anything the whole talk, and Moon Knight just kind of walks out like, thanks for the talk, bro. We get a lot more, and it's really, I think this was like his first, hit in history or whatever, is the flashback they're giving us here. And it's really like Punisher explaining to us that he didn't really have to do it this way. He didn't have to, go to these extents. That was really him, making sure, kind of thing. But the biggest part of it is this, and if you read the last issue before then, the last like interviewee that comes in is, of course, his long dead wife Maria, now that she's resurrected. And as we've been reading the story, we've seen this backstory with Maria too, and we've learned at this point that on that day that her and her kids were murdered, she was actually going to divorce Frank. She had it up with, trying to cope with Frank. She was trying, I mean, as you've been reading this story, they've come across different parts of the story where not only Maria has tried to reach out to Frank, get him help, she's tried all these different avenues, and Frank's been the one that has not really wanted to be a family man. He had the opportunities, but for some reason or other, he had excuses on why he didn't want to be with his kids or his wife, or he just wasn't, mentally there when he was with the kids. So basically, that's, the story that we're getting here from Maria, and she's basically like, I don't give a shit about you, I'm still going through the divorce. Doctor Strange made it so I can still have a life, where, it's been explained that I'm not some kind of zombie, so they have kind of figured out a way where I'm going to have a life, but it's going to be far the fuck away from you and whatever the fuck you are, kind of thing. And she was like, I was at that point by the time I got murdered that nope, I was about to wash my hands with you. I was about to take the kids, and we were never going to see you again, regardless of what you wanted. You had already made up your mind that you didn't want to be a part of this family, that you were more, you just wanted excuses to not be there with this family. And then to be resurrected after being dead, and to come to find out that you've been using my name and our kids' names in the terms of vengeance to go on this mass long killing spree. She basically spits in his face, and she's like, F you, your kids basically say F you and don't ever mention us, kind of thing, how dare you. And it's all, very realistic. I mean, like, at this point, and it was always in the back of my mind reading The Punisher, but like his whole like stick about like how he was killing, these people and retribution for them killing you. I mean, it never plays out. It never works. You're just stooping to their level, kind of thing. And anybody who doesn't see that just hasn't come to terms with certain real things. And I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, that's what it is. You can't justify killing just because something tragic happened to you. Tragic stuff happens to people all the time, and they don't, their thought, progression is, oh, I'm going to go on this massive killing spree. And then on top of that, if that was the case, then Frank would have stopped at the, maybe 20 some odd people that were physically there that day that physically killed his kids. No, I mean, we're talking about 40 plus years of Frank Castle just going after mobsters, villains, all kind of stuff, some heroes that he deemed villains, and straight up killing them, And I can understand that some of those people he was protecting, yada yada yada, but in the mainstream of things, good versus evil, that's where we stand. So basically she ends up, walking out of the room. With that being said, Punisher not really saying anything. I mean, what could he say, kind of thing. I mean, that was the one thing that he didn't want to happen, was those memories to come back. And the very end, we see him picking back up those bullets, and they're going to play a major point, coming forward, because at this point, the Marvel heroes that are here are basically like, we don't know what to do, man. We could lock you up, we could, but they were like, we took a vote, it wasn't unanimous, but we did take a vote, but we have decided what to do with you. And before Cap can even like finish, Frank cuts him off, and he was like, screw y'all and your justification of me. He was like, I know what I'm gonna do. And basically he takes those bullets, and it's like the last ounce of the power of the beast, and he basically, he literally kills himself. He like somehow burns himself to death, until there is nothing left of him. And even like they do like this magical search for him, and Doctor Strange does solidify that he is no longer on the mortal plane. He literally did kill himself. We do get a couple more things, like you know, as far as progression of the story, we get some scenes right here, you know, kind of letting us know that that lady, like, you know, survived. But it's not only that, but this kind of goes back into the beginning of, like, you know, her meeting Frank, but we see the meeting as a little kid kind of thing. We do see, you know, Maria on her way with all the money that she got, because basically it was confirmed that, you know, she was, since, you know, Doctor Strange made her a living person, or did something like that. Basically, she got all Frank Castle's estates and stuff like that, all his secret hideouts and all his Punisher's bullshit. It was tracked down, located, sold, and she got all the residue from it, since he did it in her name, right? So we see her going off, you know, with her life, when, you know, starting off in the right direction. We also do see, if you saw right there, but during this time, Frank and her had slept together numerous times, but it does show that she is pregnant. I'm gonna kind of like skip this backstory right here. You kind of have to read it for that. There's not a lot into it, but it's just you know, like, it was a moment when they resurrected her, but it was like a good moment for Frank. But that's basically it. You know, once he kills himself, he sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. He basically, you know, because he's owning up to all his sins. Is basically what he did. But we get this long letter from Jason Aaron solidifying that this is the end of the Punisher. Now, it is explained that, and I'll go into another page after this, but it is explained that Frank Castle still exists within the Marvel Universe, but this is the end of the Punisher. He had a start, he had a reason why he started this war, why he became the Punisher, and at this moment in time, that was it. So when people are like, oh, Marvel's killing off the Punisher, no. It's not like that. Frank Castle still exists, just the persona that he created within this comic world is done. And, I mean, it's stated that numerous people came up with the storyline. It wasn't just Jason Aaron himself, but within the numerous people that came up with this storyline, they have since deemed that Frank Castle not only completed his mission, but he has nothing else to fight for as far as the Punisher is concerned. There, you know, my opinion, and I will leave this here for a second, you know, so you could like freeze frame it if you so wanted to read it or whatever, if you don't have the comic yourself. But I would highly suggest reading the series and making it to the end, just, you know, to read the letter that goes alongside with it, because in my opinion, it was a pretty perfect ending. I mean, you're talking about, I haven't read all the Punisher stuff, but I have read quite a few of it. War Journal was one of my favorite 90s series that it came out, and there was a couple after that I'm drawing a blank at that were pretty good too. But in my opinion of the whole overarching story of Punisher, I believe, in my opinion, that this was a fantastic ending. You know, he wasn't captured, he wasn't killed, he wasn't, I mean, you know, he, on his own terms, he did what he felt he needed to do. So we do have a couple more pages left to go, because they do show us an epilogue, and it's basically Frank Castle, and it looks like a hell, or, you know, what does Marvel call limbo? He might be in limbo, we don't know, but we see a kind of more salvaged, you know, looking Frank Castle down here at the bottom. He's got, you know, kind of growing a beard. It's still a deep shadow, I wouldn't say a beard, but, you know, basically it looks like he's ferrying these kids in hell or whatever. So maybe he's, you know, he's trying to help out these kids that are lost in hell. But that's basically where they leave Frank Castle's story off at the moment. I'm pretty sure this is going somewhere. Like, Frank Castle will be becoming something else, which I'm kind of looking forward to. You know, to seeing where a man named Punisher, and that was his MO, what his path to redemption would look like, kind of thing, especially since it's located in hell at the moment. I know I didn't do this at the beginning, because there's a lot of people that were associated with the series, and I was talking about the whole overarching series versus just one comic. But Jason Aaron, of course, was the main writer on this book. Jesus Saiz, Paul Azaceta. We had colors by Matt Hollingsworth, letters from VC's Cory Petit. But that is my review of of this issue. But just touching base on the end of the Punisher, we've seen a couple of the ends of a couple different characters. So I really am interested in what you think. I've seen a whole bunch of miscommunication stuff on Marvel's killing off the Punisher, kind of thing. Technically, they did. He did. He did. But hey, that's my review. Y'all let me know what y'all thought. Always, I'm looking for comments about the comic. If you're a longtime Punisher fan and you read this, if you hated it, let me know why. I like hearing both sides of the story. Because there's always something that I might have missed, or maybe I'm looking more into something, or should have been looking more into something than I was aware of, kind of thing. I don't know. I'm always looking for different opinions, different comments. That's why I do these videos. I want the interaction between me and you. I don't have that interaction in real life. This is the only way I can get it. So I don't know. That's what I got for you guys. I'll let y'all go. Y'all have a great weekend. This should upload sometime Sunday night. Alright guys, that's all I got for you for now. Bye!